Clean out stress and remain calm. Part 3. Do you know that you can train your mind on how to think through all of life's circumstances? Especially when it comes to the negative ones, the ones we are referring to in our series as a cause of stress, resultant pain, and disease? Something to do with positive optimism? Does that mean that there is negative optimism? Nah, I'm just pulling your leg. It's pessimism. Anyhow, welcome, my lovely and amazing listeners, to another of the Hope Ignites Healing podcast with your host, Dr. Lillian Kaliisa. This is a space we speak everything holistic health and healing, and we are in the season where we're talking clean out. We're cleaning out our minds, our bodies, and our spaces for holistic health and healing. And this week, we're finalizing our series on cleaning out stress and remaining calm. Part 3. Thank you, my lovely and ardent and patient listeners, for carrying through the series. So let's see how we conclude this one. I have to make it exciting for you and worth the wait. So let's start with a scenario I have read about, a scene of a case study research done in 2 dogs. They must have been little cute dogs, I can imagine. Anyhow, these 2 were caged up, each in its own cage. They were each introduced to shock. I'm hoping that this was nothing traumatic and that it was just for illustration purposes. Hang on, keep on with me as we study exactly the message in this. So the first dog was given an option to escape from the cage. And when the shock became so unbearable for it, it managed to escape. But the second dog, on the other side, was given no option to escape. It tried what it could, and poor little things lay there simply accepting the shock, having no options but to face the resultant trauma. How sad. And at this point, he literally gives up. So these same dogs were placed in 2 new cages after they had both fully recovered from the previous shock. I'm hoping this is more exciting and calming for us. Anyhow, both were given the option to escape. The first dog, like it did the first time, it quickly worked itself through the cage and found its escape route, suffering no damage to the shock. The second dog, on the other side, despite the fact that there was an exit route, had learnt not to fight. The little thing sat right there and accepted to be shocked. And guess what? Shocked it was. This is learned helplessness. Look, a dog is meant to naturally run and rescue. There is no brainer in this. But the circumstances had taught it to not fight and accept whatever happens while in the cage, even if it was destructive to its body. Now, isn't that us? Accepting to let our bodies face pain and deviate from our default setup into disease? Where they are made to naturally defend themselves and recover from stressful circumstances and the pain therein, we teach them to settle. And this is what I'm talking about. That these persistent stressful conditions that we started to describe in this series, the ones that are causing our bodies to accept shock, call it stress and resultant pain, like it was for those little dogs. These teach our bodies to go into quote-unquote helplessness mode and cannot escape into health and even more authentic living. Listen to what prolonged states of high cortisol, the resultant stress hormones produced in our bodies, what it does to our bodies long term. 1. The long-term effect of cortisol affects our long-term memory. So remember that cortisol is naturally intended to act short-term through the fight and flight loop. So because of that, while in that action, there is suppressed attention to long-term memory. The brain knows it does not need long-term memory. It needs the short-term memory to quickly up and go. Because the brain knows that, it simply shuts off what we call the hippocampus, that area for learning and memory center in the brain. So you get stuck on an old stressful event and you are clouded to new learning and constructive memory. Hence, the brain getting into fogginess, forgetfulness, and the decline in the long-term memory. And here I mention that your cognitive load has been way surpassed, that you cannot go beyond that for natural new learning and memory. So do you see a resultant cognitive disorder resulting from that, as well as mood disorders? This thing is quite serious, guys. Secondly, the long-term effect of cortisol causes a catabolic effect. This is what we call urgent breakdown of body tissues to make quick alternative sources of sugar and energy to avoid going through the long loop of making the stores that you need for action. So this is especially during the fight and flight mode. So the body quickly uses muscular breakdown to make alternative sources of sugar and energy. And in the process, because it's so rampant and non-uniform, this breakdown destroys collagen fibers, the ones that connect your tissues together to keep you young. They get destroyed in the process. Therefore, you have resultant unhealthy muscle loss, wrinkled skin, and aging, hair graying, hair loss, nail breakage, and so on. Aren't you familiar with this? That when you are or anybody else is chronically stressed, we look haggard, wrinkled, grayed, and often years older than our actual ages. I don't like the sight of this. And thirdly, this rapid irregular activation of glucose from alternative sources, like I've just explained, will obviously cause sugar and glucose surges. Of course, you're going to have increased risk of insulin resistance, that hormone that has to regulate the haphazard production of sugar that is in excess. This eventually will cause what we call insulin resistance and higher risk of diabetes and even developing the disease itself. Of course, this comes with other chronic illnesses attached to it. We're talking obesity, heart disease, hypertension, as well as chronic ulcers from the failed parasympathetic nervous system. The one that I talked about controls the off switches in rest and digest. Refer to the last podcast for more detailed explanation. This sounds so scary and annoying, I must say. But how do we save our souls from this mess? How do we get our bodies to learn to escape into holistic health yet again? I will tell you through learned optimism, the one that the first dog in my research best illustration used to escape in the set scenario. This is the idea. The idea is that you can learn to be optimistic and positive, happy and healthy, and that you can learn how to. The things that I teach here at the Hope Ignites Healing podcast, and through this adaptation model, this is the cycle that I have learned. Be careful what you think, because your thoughts become your words. And be careful what you say, because your words become your action. Be careful what you do, because those actions become your habits. Your habits determine your character. And your character determines your future, for it is who you are. So focus is on your mind and your thoughts on a daily. You can choose which you can think. And I will remind us as we conclude our series exactly where we started 3 weeks ago. Stress is not what happens to us. It's our response to what happens, and response is something you can choose. And response is an action. So today, say this affirmation with me, giving it meaning, for your brain is waiting for today's instruction on how to think and therefore act. We can teach us to think positivity regardless of what happened yesterday. So join me with this affirmation. Now you know where I come from to tell you this every week. Let's go. Yes, stress has got me often, but it will not own my responses. And above all, the resultant pain from it will not steal my health any longer, for I now know better. Today, I breathe. I intentionally take a deep breath and breathe in full health to heal my body from the damages caused by my past. I radiate healing I glow and I share the healing with those around me. My body knows what it needs to do. So today, I make the right choices to choose healing for my body. Yes, I heal and choose after a lifestyle of healing. For I desire holistic health for my body, and I start today. Well done. Thank you for carrying through with me. I am hoping that this was worth it. I'm here to cheer you on, to encourage you, and to show you that this is possible, that you can move from sickness into holistic health and especially healing. Your host, Dr. Lillian Kaliisa, happy and proud and excited to see the new version of you as we chase after a life of holistic health and healing. And of course, adding the glow to medicine. I'll see you next week as we continue in our Hope Ignites Healing podcast. Bye-bye.